YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about the poem which is titled as Vultures. This poem is written by Tawfiq Rafat. Vultures is an animal, the bird rather we should say, and it's thought to be very ugly bird, but it has been used as a symbol by many writers. Like Banu Qudsiya in her novel Raja Gid also uses this symbol, and in that way she is able to interpret number of things which are associated with that. Normally, vulture is thought to arrive and come down from the skies on the earth when some dead body is present and its flesh is rotting. At that time, the vultures seem to be appearing. And same is the case that when vultures are plentifully available in the sky, it can be said that some dead body is there. So death and vultures have been interconnected with each other, and its ugly shape, as it's most of the time thought to be, has been a symbol of disgust and dislike. The same symbol has been used by the poet in this poem. So let us see how this poem forwards. The poet says, like vultures, they gather when someone dies, cousins and uncles and aunts not seen for years, and dolefully hear, heads wagging and generating cries for each newcomer to a house. The poet says that this is a time when his all uncles and aunts have come together, who would never come together. But somebody has died, and like vultures, they have come. And otherwise, they cannot be seen. Now, because of the death of someone, some are waving their heads in sadness, and someone is generating the cries. And in that way, whoever comes into the house, that person reveals a new wave of love and happiness for a person who has died, and showing the grief for that person as well. So in this way, the writer says ironically that these people otherwise would not come, but now they have come just like vultures. So in this way, vulture works, vulture word, vulture symbol works in two ways here. That some are the people who would come to you only at the time of death, as vultures come at the time of death. But then the vultures come to eat up the flesh of the dead body. Unfortunately, this is the very meaning which is being applied here for the vultures. And same is the case with the artificiality of sadness and of sorrow which is being indicated in this poem, that these vultures do come at the time of death but do not carry anything good for the dead body, but rather they are going to eat that dead body. So some of the human beings are compared in these lines in the same way. The poet therefore brings before us the nature of the human beings. How do they behave at that time when somebody dies? Apparently very sad, but actually not. So that is why the poet compares them with the vultures. This is the first part of the poem. Let us see what is the second part. He says, after 2 or 3 days they will be gone, who knows for how long, with back patting embrace and bedding borrowed from neighbors and hired crockery will be counted and returned. The poet says all these sadnesses of these people who have come like vulture, that is only for the few days, and they will stay here for some time, and they will be embracing each other by patting on the backs of the people to remain satisfied and peaceful. They will be doing all that, and during this time, the owner of the house where the dead body has taken place will be borrowing the beddings and the other things from his neighbors in order to meet the requirements of these people. And sometime he would have to borrow or hire the crockery as well. And ultimately, when all these people go back, the crockery will be counted, the beds will be counted, and returned to the original owners of these things. So the second stanza is also not, it's not stanza, second part of the poem is also equally loaded with meanings. For example, the whole thing will happen only for 2 or 3 days. It means after that the life of everyone would become normal. But during these 2 3 days, a lot of hustle and bustle will take place, and the homeowner will be there to make arrangements for all these people, and they will be in return giving them only patting embraces, and sometimes the bedding would be required, sometimes crockery would be required, and ultimately everything will go back. So the poem on the whole goes to talk about the nature of the human beings and the problems which the people face at that time when somebody dies. And that is why the poem is ironic, and it conveys the meaning and the nature of the people and the behavior of those people, all this being criticized here in this poem. Tawfiq Rafat, the poetry of Tawfiq Rafat is most of the time not with regular rhyme scheme. And same is the case here, that if you try to find out somewhere somehow, there may be by force, we may be saying that some rhyme scheme is there, otherwise not. It's a kind of free poetry, and it's a modern poetry. And in this poem, the image of vulture has been used, that if you look at these people, they appear to be sad, they appear to be ugly, but on the whole they have the devouring kind of nature that is being pointed out about the human beings, especially for certain human beings, not for all. And in the same way, the second part of the poem also shows that this grief, the show of grief, will remain only for 2 or 3 days. So that is why perhaps the poet wants to say that the grief of the human being for a dead body is only for a few days, and they come only to tell that they are grievous, otherwise, possibly in reality, they do not have their grief. The poet has used some of the very good words in order to indicate the death reality and the associated pain associated with that. But perhaps this pain is not genuinely being shown by the people, like it is doleful here, wagging heads and generating cries. These are the words which convey the sense of loss and sense of sadness. And then a great number of the people has been highlighted by comparing it with the flock of vultures, and then applying it to the cousins and uncles and aunts, all these people, making a group of the relatives who have come just like vultures, according to the poet. And then the poet also cuts joke at the behavior of the people, that so sad people are showing this extreme sadness by their behavior, but actually it is only 2 or 3 days, and then it is simply the patting of the back, that we want to tell the other people, okay, don't worry, everything would be okay. And in that way, the whole system will be wound up by returning the beds and returning the crockery to the people, to the neighbors, and in that way the system would end. The poem deplores the condition of human society and their behavior for their dead ones and for the people, artificiality of the behavior, lack of some strength and sincerity that is being indicated by the poet by using the symbol of vulture. Symbol is quite appropriate because most of the time we show something and we don't want to. So at the time of death, like the vultures, many relatives come, but their nature may not be like that, or their sincerity may be questionable, and they will be returning to their place within just 1, 2, or 3 days. So that is the whole poem. The poem, we can talk about the length of the poem. It is in two parts and is having seven lines possibly in one part, and 7 lines in the other part, and the thought is connected with the help of death, the image of death, and the behavior of the human being connects these two parts together, and our behavior, which is hypocritical or which is artificial, that is making it connected. But however, overall the poem is beautiful because very small chunk or slice of the life has been given to us at the time of death. Many poets have responded to that. Some have responded in a positive way. Like Bacon, for example, says that there is no need to become fearful of death. And other people have also talked about death. And sometimes Robert Browning, who talks in welcoming notes about death. But this here, Tawfiq Rafat, through death, tries to bring out or explain or expose the behavior of the people. So that was the poem of the day. Hope to see you in some next video. Till that time, bye bye. Take care, take peaceful, and happy as well.